Good evening from Istanbul, Turkey. I am at Taksim Square in central Istanbul on the European side, where supporters of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan are out in force. Not that this is particularly their stronghold area of the city or the country. There's a much larger crowd gathered right now in Ankara at or outside the presidential palace complex there, but I'm in Istanbul. I can't exactly jet over to Ankara the way the winner of today's election can. Erdogan has won the Turkish presidential election. He defeated challenger and opposition leader Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu by a vote of about 52% for Erdogan to 48% for Kılıçdaroğlu. The latest figure I saw was about 52.15 for Erdogan and 48.85, something like that for, 47.85, something like that for Kılıçdaroğlu. It's about a 4% differential. Thank you to those of you tuning in. I will try to keep tabs on the comments throughout this. I'm gonna flip the camera around. There have been celebrations going on for a few hours now. I'll head over to the area of Taksim Square right by the start of Istiklal Street, where there are people waving flags. There have been fireworks going off all over Istanbul, and a lot of flag waving, a lot of people driving around, heads hanging out of car windows, honking all over the city. Lots of this kind of action. As is normally the case, as an election wraps up or on election night, and as they typically have been in recent years here, Erdogan is the winner. So the first commenters chiming in, Matt's asking any irregularities. I do not know of any yet. I haven't heard anything, I don't know if I should say yet, but I have not heard of any irregularities. I don't get the impression that the opposition is going to be challenging this result. They may claim it was an unfair election, but I do not get the impression that the opposition is going to be challenging. Erdogan was the clear favorite heading into today based on what took place in the first round of voting. And then as the results were coming in tonight, Erdogan was well in the lead according to the tally being released by the Anadolu Agency, which is a Turkish state news agency. Then his lead was diminishing over the course of the night, but that's what happens all the time on election night here. They're singing Recep Tayyip Erdogan now. So as the night started, the Anadolu tally had Erdogan with a big lead. Then that reduced to what it is now, which is slightly more than a 4% margin between Erdogan and Kılıçdaroğlu. No, I do not think so, Matt. I think there's going to be a lot of what you see right now. A lot of people hanging out of car windows and honking horns and waving flags. But the Islamic world is definitely celebrating. This is definitely considered a victory for the Islamic world. And I should say that there are several million refugees and migrants in this country, with Syrians being the majority of them, as people are screaming Allahu Akbar. There are a lot of refugees and migrants in this country who have let out a huge sigh of relief tonight, because probably the biggest election issue of the past 2 weeks, if not the whole campaign, has been that, the refugee and migrant issue. And Erdogan is viewed as being much friendlier to the Syrians, Afghans, and other refugees and migrants who are here than Kılıçdaroğlu and the opposition. It's an Erdogan campaign song being played from the car with the guy sitting on top. Michelle, to opine a little bit, I don't think Erdogan needed to cheat to win this election. I don't think Kılıçdaroğlu was the strongest challenger that the opposition could have put forward. And I don't think the opposition ran the best campaign. What was your takeaway from Bilderberg? I got a lot of takeaways from Bilderberg. I don't know how I can address that at the moment. Let me take like 5 steps back. With regard to Bilderberg, I still have a lot of footage that I have yet to edit and publish. I'm going to try my best to actually get on that and get out a lot more footage from Bilderberg, this year's Bilderberg that wrapped up a week ago. One takeaway for sure, though, is something that I wrote an article about. I didn't really provide commentary on it in the article, but I wrote an article about the Swedish chief negotiator for NATO membership being there at Bilderberg, despite not being on the participants list. Now, according to Bilderberg's logic, I guess he was not a participant, but he was very much there at the hotel, and he was even photographed at their Saturday night dinner at a different palace. And one takeaway, which I guess this might be a little bit of a preview of a future report or reports, is that there are a lot of people coming in and out of Bilderberg. And when I say Bilderberg in this sense, I mean the hotel complex where it's taking place. There are a lot of people coming in and out who are not on the participants list. And some of these people are quite noteworthy, like the Swedish chief negotiator for NATO membership. So there you go, there's a takeaway. I'll get back to Bilderberg in other videos. Romika Annabelle is tuned in. Thank you for chiming in here with an insightful comment. Istanbul voted 51.78% for opposition candidate Kılıçdaroğlu, but it seems people in the street are happy Erdogan won. The mayor of Istanbul, who I think would have been a stronger candidate than Kılıçdaroğlu, Ekrem İmamoğlu, is a member of the opposition. He is a member of Erdogan's party. So right now, albeit Erdogan is from Istanbul, he rose up the ranks in politics in Istanbul. He was mayor of Istanbul. But right now, Istanbul is a slightly opposition-leaning city with an opposition administration led by Ekrem İmamoğlu, who is a very, very interesting and I'd say key player in Turkish politics, but maybe I'll get into that later. There's a lot of noise and action here. Again, I'm at Taksim Square in central Istanbul. This is on the European side. Erdogan has a home on the Asian side in a district called Üsküdar that's right on the Bosphorus. And that's where he voted earlier. And that's where he stayed through at least, I think, the mid-evening in order to take in the election results. He gave a brief speech in Üsküdar, and I retweeted a tweet. I watched some of that speech, and I retweeted a tweet pointing out that he was trashing the opposition for being pro-LGBTQ, which has actually been part of his rhetoric throughout the campaign. He's been very frequently Erdogan has very frequently been attacking the opposition for being pro-LGBTQ, whether they are or not. But so Erdogan voted in Üsküdar here in Istanbul, then gave a very brief speech, and since then he's headed over to Ankara, and I know that there's been a large crowd gathering outside the presidential palace in Ankara, and I'm not checking live updates right now, but he might already be over there. I would assume a big balcony speech is coming from Erdogan at the presidential palace in Ankara if it hasn't already started. Okay, on the internet there's a lot of Turkish food and it looks so good. Oh, there's a lot of Turkish food right in front of me. If you like döner, then that's everywhere here. But yes, in general, Turkish food is known to be very tasty. And a lot of people are really into the sweets. I avoid sweets though. They're chanting Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Thank you. Thanks, Dave. Actually, Ms. Annabelle, Ermina Erdogan is always by her husband's side for election night speeches. There you go, Ms. Annabelle. There's a woman hanging out of a car chanting, "God is great." With no head covering. Yes, Polly, as I was saying earlier, the mayor of Istanbul, Ekrem İmamoğlu, is a member of Kılıçdaroğlu's party. So Istanbul now is controlled by the opposition. Yes, so those are the three largest cities in Turkey: Istanbul, Ankara, and Izmir. Izmir, Izmir historically is the stronghold of the CHP, the Republican People's Party, which is the party led by Kılıçdaroğlu. But in the last municipal election cycle, control of Istanbul and Ankara flipped from the AKP, Erdogan's party, to the CHP. Mr. Moon, as I was saying a little earlier, I don't think Erdogan needed to rig this election. I think he ran a stronger campaign and is a better campaigner than Kılıçdaroğlu. But with that said, I know the opposition's sentiment is that the elections are unfair in various senses due to government control of media and other issues. But at the same time, the opposition's sentiment coming in was, despite whatever hurdles they would face, they could beat Erdogan in the ballot box. And on that, they failed. Looks like police are now trying to keep people out of the street here at Taksim. Ambulance trying to get through.
يصورني واحد كيف هو امان.
Even taxis have got music. Hey Matt, thank you for tuning in. Oh, it looks... I think I know who What Is Izmir is. I don't know for sure, but I think I know who What Is Izmir is. Who was saying that Erdogan's speaking at the presidential palace, as we were alluding to earlier. There must be a massive crowd out there. Well, I saw a couple shots before going live. Thank you for tuning in, Mr. Izmir. How are things down there? Sen nasılsın? Looks like people are going to march down Istiklal Street. A lot of taxis getting in on the celebrations. Mr. Izmir is saying 84.2% participation rate. Some of you tuned in might not be aware that Turks are very passionate about voting, and you get voter turnout rates here that in other Western countries, or many Western countries, would be shockingly high. However, and I don't know if that 84.2% is final, but what I was going to say is that if that is number, that is a decrease. And I was hearing or seen earlier as another ambulance tries to get through, it looked like there was a lower turnout in the predominantly Kurdish areas of the country today, which, if so, that might be one of the key takeaways in breaking down how the vote played out. Just for a little scene setting. This is the start of Istiklal Street, which is one of the busiest pedestrian streets in the entire world, if not the busiest. And we're at the edge of Taksim Square by Istiklal. This is Taksim Mosque, which was a project in the works for decades that many people in the country wanted and many people didn't want. And Erdogan managed to get this mosque built, which towers over Taksim Square. That's the Ataturk Memorial in the center of the square, right there. Celebration has not died down. It is now after midnight local time. It is 12:11 a.m. And there's still quite the crowd out here. Kenny's asking no fireworks. Actually, no, there have been fireworks going off for hours, just not right here at Taksim Square. Fireworks are a common occurrence in this city every night of the year. Not just election night, not just New Year's. Every night of the year, there are fireworks going off in Istanbul. And I heard some elsewhere in the city, in a couple places earlier, but I don't think there have been any fireworks right around here. Okay, I need to get out of the way. This is a little dicey. An ambulance is heading right at me. So there's now been ambulances going in both directions, coming and going from here. A bunch of police lights flashing as well. Mr. Izmir, since you're tuned in, what would you say is a key takeaway or key takeaways from this election? And if you want to plug your tours or anything, go ahead. Another taxi. Quite a few taxis taking part in the celebrations. Well, Matt, I think Mr. Izmir was alluding to the inflation in his fireworks comment. The inflation is definitely a big deal here. No doubt about that. But but politically Erdogan's managed to overcome it. There was one point a year ago, I think less than a year ago, when year-over-year inflation in Istanbul, not nationwide, but in Istanbul, hit 100%. It was 99.9%. The inflation was very high nationwide as well, but it's come down a bit this year. But the devaluation of the lira has been pretty massive. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know about the factory explosion. But I do know that fireworks go off in Istanbul all the time. And there are some locations, prominent areas of the city, where they seem to be shot off pretty much every night. Thank you, Murphy. It is what it is. I enjoyed doing it. And I'm grateful for whoever tunes in. Thank you, Riding Dirty. Things aren't dying down here, but they've calmed down a little bit. Again, it is after midnight local time. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for your appreciation and support over the years. I assume Erdogan's speech in Ankara is ongoing at the moment. I could try to pull that up and check. Mr. Izmir, I did notice that there are some foreigners here. And as I was mentioning earlier, I think there's been a collective sigh of relief tonight from several million foreigners in this country who were very worried that they may get kicked out of Turkey had the other guy won. And it's hard to say to what extent the rhetoric coming from Imamoglu was just campaign rhetoric to try to win an election, and he really ramped it up. The opposition really ramped up the anti-Syrian, anti-refugee, anti-migrant rhetoric over the past couple weeks since they did not perform well in the first round of this election. Politics makes for strange bedfellows, and that's been pretty apparent in these Turkish elections. We have coalitions that bring together nationalists along with people who are seen as more pro-Kurdish or pro-refugee or pro-migrant. A lot of very strange partnerships in elections in Turkey as of late. Mr. Izmir is saying buying $400,000 homes means free. Yeah, so that's an interesting point. I, for one, follow the citizenship by investment business pretty closely. I know and have interviewed a couple of gurus in that field. And it actually used to be, so what Mr. Izmir is referencing is the citizenship by investment program that Erdogan introduced. And the main component of that program has been citizenship via purchasing real estate. There are a couple other ways to go about it, but the main one, and I would say clearly the most lucrative one, is buying real estate. And it was initially priced at $1 million, and there weren't a lot of takers. Then they lowered it to $250,000. And it was actually at $250,000 for longer than $400,000. They changed it to $400,000, I forget exactly when, maybe a year ago or something like that. So yes, a lot of people, particularly from the Middle East, got in on that and effectively bought Turkish citizenship. And yeah, they can vote, although I don't know if they can tip an election. That's probably a bit of a stretch. It's probably a bit of a stretch to make to say that not that you're saying that, Mr. Izmir, but it's not just the high rollers who have been picking up Turkish citizenship. Many of the Syrians who came as refugees are now Turkish citizens. I don't know how many, but one might wonder, in similar fashion as to a lot of people on the conservative side in the US are concerned about there being a large future voting bloc of people who immigrated to the country. There could be something similar in Turkey, or at least it'd be interesting to wonder about. Dan Dix of Press for Truth is tuned in from Vancouver, where he recently returned from Lisbon, Portugal. Dan and I were covering Bilderberg together in Lisbon a week ago. If you go over to the Press for Truth YouTube channel, you've got all kinds of reports from Bilderberg and Lisbon. He's got the inside of the Bilderberg Hotel, confrontations, airport footage with the participants coming and going, all kinds of good stuff. Yeah, good times. That was fun. And as I was saying earlier in the broadcast, actually, I should note, not, and I messed this up before, not the Press for Truth YouTube channel, because that's been nuked. But I think Dan is commenting from a backup channel where he posts video teasers or previews on. But YouTube censorship has been quite the issue. I actually shot a video several years back walking around this city talking about YouTube censorship after I had a couple videos deleted. But Dan's gotten it way, way, way worse. So if you want to check out his stuff, go to pressfortruth.ca rather than searching for him on YouTube. Mr. Izmir is saying, I'll flip this thing around. Middle East families are huge, so citizenship with buying homes makes for all fit. Yeah, and that's also worth noting. In some ways, there you go, club night, Ms. Annabelle. In some ways, the Turkish citizenship by investment program has been too good to be true. At least when it was at $250,000. I didn't mean for this to be a video about Turkish citizenship by investment, but yeah, as Mr. Izmir is mentioning, and as it starts raining here, the Turkish program, unlike some other programs, does allow you to get citizenship for all members of your immediate family, and it might even be more than that. I forget how exactly the family provision works, but definitely members of your immediate family. And yes, as Mr. Izmir is pointing out, a lot of Middle Eastern families are quite large, or at least by Western standards, quite large or very large. It's after midnight and it's raining here, but we still have people standing up, hanging out of sunroofs, hanging out of windows, walking about, flying flags. Yeah. A lot of people in this country love elections, especially if their side wins. Kenny's asking, where am I traveling next? Any plans to go to Ukraine for the offensive? Speaking of Ukraine, здравствуйте, Алона. Извините, пожалуйста, простите. Я буду публиковать этот репортаж, но не сейчас. Но я буду. Простите. Okay. Okay, speaking of Ukraine, I don't know. I want to go to Ukraine very soon, but I don't think I will. Спасибо. Извините. Этот видео на мой компьютер. Okay, so we're probably going to wrap up, I'm probably going to wrap up this coverage and stream pretty soon. I want to go back to Ukraine soon. I need to go back to Ukraine for one reason that is not the offensive. But I don't think I'm going to be going there on this Europe trip, unfortunately. But hopefully I will be back there sometime soon. And speaking of unpublished footage from Ukraine, I just have so much unpublished footage from everywhere. It'd be nice if I had an editor. I don't know if Dan's still tuned in, but he and I were talking about this issue that comes up for him, and I'm just realizing how much it comes up for me as well, which is that Dan of Press for Truth could save a whole lot of time if he had someone editing his footage, but he was telling me that he can't just hand over his footage to someone who doesn't understand the news, the politics, the context of it all. And that's often the case for me as well. So I actually have a lot of unpublished footage from Ukraine, not just that interview that I did with Alona back at the beginning of the war, which I'm so overdue on publishing, and that's what I was just commenting to her about. But I was speaking of offensives or counter-offensives, I was in Kherson, briefly albeit, but I was in Kherson not right after the Ukrainians took it back, but a couple weeks or so, maybe a few weeks after they took it back. And I don't think I've published any footage on YouTube from Kherson during the war. Did I? No, I did not. Not on YouTube. And in a brief amount of time, I definitely got some interesting footage from Kherson, which was just an atrocious situation where you had all these elderly people stuck in the city walking around amid shelling, and a fair amount of civilian casualties. Okay. Evan, I saw your comment earlier, and I think Dan could better address that than I can. But I will respond to that comment you left earlier, which is very similar to this one that you're leaving now on the live stream. And thank you, by the way, for tuning in, Evan. Oh, wow. Okay. I did not know you speak English now. Wow. Nicely done. And I'm just very sorry that you have to live through this horrible situation. I will come back to Kiev as soon as I can. And thank you for watching. I hope this helps with your English. Your English is probably going to be better than my Russian by the time I return to Kiev. Okay, Izmir is saying Kiev under attack last night by Iranian drones, by Russia. Actually, this election, there's a lot that could be said about this election with respect to Russia and Ukraine, but I don't know if there's time for that on this broadcast. Serbia and Kosovo, a couple places that I used to go to all the time, and that may offend some Serbs the way I just said that. I'm long overdue for a Serbia-Kosovo trip, and yes, there's been tension lately, although that isn't terribly new. That happens a lot. But yeah, that's another place I'm long overdue going back to. Thank you, Kenny, for tuning in. Evan, I would not say there's a very voluntarist system here, but I would say that there is a true appreciation for democracy in the sense that people love to vote and people get very passionate about elections and campaigns here. And it's kind of something you have to see to believe. I've been here for quite a few election seasons over the past decade. And people really get into it here. Sorry, Alona. I can't speak in Ukrainian on the spot, and I can't really speak Ukrainian, period. Although there are quite a few words that I do understand. Привіт. Дякую. Maybe next time I come to Kiev, I'll practice some Ukrainian. I'm going to try to wrap this up pretty briefly. Although the rain seems to have stopped. But the celebration here at Taksim Square also seems to have stopped. I'm going to go take a peek in the direction of Istiklal Street. See if anything's going on there. If it looks like nothing crazy is going on there, which I don't think there is at this hour, but at all hours of the day there's something, or at least some people on Istiklal. And also, Alona, if you can understand, I admit that I was just so embarrassed about how bad my Russian was in that video. So maybe that had something to do with me taking too long to edit and publish it. All right, I could whip out something else and check that participation rate, but let's just say that Mr. Izmir's got it. It's 84.2%. That is a decrease from round one. And as I was alluding to earlier, I think there was lower turnout this time around in the Kurdish areas. If I'm going to do some on the moment extrapolating, the opposition quite possibly lost some of the Kurdish vote due to Kılıçdaroğlu's rhetoric and him trying to align with nationalists over the past 2 weeks. That's just me trying to do some on-the-spot analysis. Speaking of the opposition, it should be very interesting to see. And yes, there was it's no laughing matter. There was a bomb. There was a bombing on Istiklal last November. And Ms. Annabelle and I were there minutes after it happened. I was going to say that speaking of the opposition, it should be very interesting to see what happens moving forward with Mr. Imamoglu, the mayor of this city. There's an ongoing court case against him. more than a court case. He's already been sentenced. He's already been sentenced to jail over insulting election officials. I think that was from his 2019 mayoral campaign. And that's been a very contested matter. And not that I've been addressing this or bringing it up publicly, but it's been in my mind. It's been in my mind all throughout this campaign that at least I thought that Imamoglu would have been a much stronger candidate than Kılıçdaroğlu. But Imamoglu, like Erdogan once upon a time, back from his Istanbul mayoral days, even though Imamoglu is currently in office, sitting mayor of Istanbul, he has been sentenced to jail, although that's going through the appeals process, and that could prevent him from running for any office. But that's yet to play out. But it should be interesting to see moving forward what happens with that case, and whether Erdogan indeed intends to leave office at the conclusion of this upcoming 5-year term that he will serve, as the Turkish constitution and current presidential system calls for. Albeit there could be some interesting interpretation of the Constitution in the upcoming years. It's really worth noting that 2 weeks ago, Erdogan's alliance, the People's Alliance, which is led by his AKP party, won a sound majority in the parliament. And it remains to be seen what might happen. The way things read in the Turkish constitution post the referendum that took place in 2017 to change the country from a parliamentary system to a presidential system is that the parliament could call an early vote that would give the president another term. But I think even as the law relates, Erdogan might be turned out by the end of this upcoming term he's going to serve. But this is all getting ahead, and this is speculating a bit. Can't say what's going to happen 5 years from now, or 4 years from now, or 3 years from now. But what has happened is that Erdogan has, without a doubt, won another 5-year term as Turkey's executive president, and his party or alliance control the parliament, so they can continue governing the country as they wish. I'm getting rained on. Any final comments to wrap this up? Okay, Alona, then I guess we need to do a second interview, or an addition to that first interview, to build upon what you said the first time. Because what you're saying now is a little different than what you said while speaking in Russian in that first interview. But nonetheless, I owe that to you, and I need to edit and publish that. And I should certainly return to Ukraine sooner than later. But I can't be everywhere at once. I do have personal stuff I need to take care of also. Indeed, Thomas, nobody knows what's going to happen in 5 years. The world's changed so much, or I guess the world changed so much back and forth over the past 5 years. Who knows what's going to happen 5 years from now? All right, thanks a lot, Dan, for tuning in. Again, check out Dan's Bilderberg Reports, pressfortruth.ca, and I hope to edit and publish more of my own Bilderberg Reports, as well as all kinds of footage that I've been sitting on for months or years. Thank you, Renee, and everyone who tuned in. I'm getting rained on to the point where I can't even see what minute we're at in this broadcast. But it's time to wrap it up. It's well after midnight here. And really, your English is great. I don't think you even spoke English when we met, so congratulations. That's a great improvement. Okay, I don't think I'm gonna do another report wrapping up this election in Turkey. This will probably be it, but I don't know, maybe I take a clip or two out of this and publish it as a regular video on the channel. I did do an election day report earlier today that's up, technically yesterday. It's up as a video on my channel, and like I said, I got a lot of Bilderberg footage, Ukraine footage from all over the world that hopefully I'll edit, process, publish sooner rather than later or eventually. So you all know the news by now. Erdogan wins about 52% to 48% for Kılıçdaroğlu. Erdogan will be Turkey's executive president yet again for the next 5 years. His parliamentary alliance is in control of the parliament. They can basically do as they please politically. Nonetheless, there's always action in Turkey, so there's always things to stay tuned to as far as what's happening in this country and this part of the world. Hopefully I'll be back here sooner rather than later, and I'll catch you guys sometime soon from wherever I am in the world. Thanks a lot for being part of this broadcast, for watching and for commenting, and see you all sometime soon. Güle güle from Istanbul.